Trouble in Doka Dice for Steve there. Look, man, how the tables have turned. I swear the last 2 weeks, it was like a hoot and holler fest for FSU. And Dave and I are yelling at one another going, where the hell's Jubilee weekend? Like, we were getting blasted. And within a matter of 72 hours, the FSU forums are in complete shambles. It's typical fan base. I mean, what do you expect? But look, you missed out on some guys, which really got the ball going, and you haven't made up for it either. There's a little bit of a panic in the room. Is there reason to be panicking, or is everything gonna be okay, Steve? Calm him down a little bit.
So it's going to be kind of two-part, right? I mean, so as of right now, as Florida's making this huge push of landing 5-star, 4-star guys back to back, in the last 72 hours per se, Florida State had a 4-star edge named Dylan Stevenson out of Miami, of all places. Who went out on a official visit to Stanford and made a commitment to Stanford while he was there. In the same fold, another offensive lineman out of IMG, actually, which hurts even more because you certainly want to try to keep some sort of a pipeline flow in there. Jason Zandamela goes out to USC. He's basically projected to be a center, internal offensive lineman, goes out to USC and makes a commitment there. He was a 4-star prospect that FSU had been recruiting for years, and it felt like that guy was almost as much of a silent commitment, a lock for FSU that you could possibly imagine. So two kids out of Florida that Florida State had spent some time building relationships with that have essentially been lost. Now, look, I'm not going to ever tell a kid who wants to go to Stanford because they want to focus on their academics not to go to Stanford and focus on your academics. It's a hell of a school. So that's one thing, right? But to have Zandamela go out to USC, and even for the fact that USC hadn't been recruiting him for very long, where FSU had the relationship, it looks like it's probably an NIL situation. I don't think Florida State can get into a spending battle with USC, especially if it's not somebody who's going to be the number 1 to number 3 recruit on our prospect board. So if you lose a kid to academics, you say, you know what, you chalk it up to a loss at Stanford. What are you going to do? But you lose a kid to USC who you built the relationship with, the NIL, and now you're looking at potentially.
That's a hard out.
It is, and then you got to win some of these, right? You can point to the reason why a kid goes to one place and another kid goes to another, but you got to start winning some of these battles. And to have a kid like Zandamela, who I believe is a bigger loss for Florida State than Dylan Stevenson, the defensive end, that one stings a little bit because I felt like Florida State felt he was in the bag. So those are two. I won't say that Dylan Stevenson is a catastrophic loss. I think he was going to be a take for Florida State. They were absolutely going to bring the kid on. I don't think they're at the other end of the spectrum, considering the depth that we have at that position. I don't think they're upside down over it. Zandamela, I believe, was a shock for the coaching staff. Alex Atkins, our offensive line and offensive coordinator, and then of course Norvell. I think they were very, very caught off guard.
I've been giving Norvell the transfer, the portal crown for the last 2 years now. But I think you and I talked earlier today that change is going to come, and it's going to tighten tighten it down a little bit. And if you're not, you got to recruit well. And we've had this conversation. Can you not recruit well and just thrive off the portal? That question is going to be left, unanswered for a while. We're going to need to see a couple years of how this process goes. But the thing with the portal is, because it is so vital right now, that changes will come, and it's not going to be positive for anybody. And I don't think they're going to have as much free will as they had. So with that, I think recruiting is still, which we kind of always came back to, have the same amount of importance that it's always had. The portal helps make up for lack of things. And it looks like Lane and even the guy out in USC, I can't think of his name right now, Lane, Norvell, and Lincoln all went really heavy on the portal. The one thing that Lincoln has done well, though, is he's starting to recruit well as well this year. He's not just waiting on the portal. He did what the portal was supposed to do. It allowed for him to transition and kind of help him through his first year. So it's a little nerve-wracking, too, that, look, yeah, you guys are doing great in the portal, but now you're starting to slack off. Charles Lessard is a big one. Florida was on the hot case, lost that pretty quickly. He has been a Florida State guy the entire time. That to me is going to be your Lagway in a sense, the guy that kind of leads your class and can really get the ball going for you with a 5-star talent like that. Colorado's in the mix. And anytime Colorado's in the mix with a cornerback and you're an FSU guy, you got to be shaking in your boots a little bit. I don't think they flip it, but honestly, dude, who knows? He's been heavy with Florida State stuff. Could it just be a monster troll? Could you run into one of those situations again? That would sting. That would hurt more than a lot. Look, I don't know how much, because obviously Coach Prime had that his foot thing where he's possibly losing it. Who knows how much of a negative impact that's happening on recruiting as well? Who knows? But that could be the straw on the camel's back, and the Norvell camp could get a little wobbly quickly. Now, obviously, they're still projected to have a good season, but that could really wobble things up for recruiting.